Guys, so when you open the software, when you log into the software, yours should be in a dark mode. I changed my mode to a lighter mode. So at first you should get an onboarding message where they explain some of the basic tools and the interface screen, like the toolbar, where the help where I got this particular onboarding message, the scene management window, the resource library, which is this triangular shape here, the property editors, and the how to use the software, like how to use your mouse. You right click to rotate, the middle scroll wheel to pan, to zoom in and zoom out is to the when you zoom in and zoom out the scroll wheel, and then to click is your left click. So when you open the software, you should have something like this. I'm just going to briefly explain the tools. You have the select tools, the edit pattern tools, the curve tool. When you click on it, it should show you like a menu where you can see some explanation on how the tool works. So this is just to like curve anything. This is the pen tool. It works like the pen tool on Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW. If you are familiar with those software, you should know this tool that I'm talking about. The rectangle tool, the pleat tool, the internal line tool, baseline tool, funnels tool, which is the slash and spread tool, the seam allowance tool, the annotation tool, the grading tool, and then we move to the sewing tool. So we have edit sewing tool, the segment tool, the free sewing tool, fold arrangement tool, set sublayer, etc. And then when you click on assets, you see more tools like texture tools, marker, graphics, buttonhole, fasten button, zippers, the top stitching tool, piping tool, and buckling tool. And then when you click on tools, you should get your rendering, 2D snapshots, and the rest. When I click on file, you can see how to open a project. If you want to open your project, garment, avatar, scene, recent files, so it auto saves some of your files for you. Save your project, save as project, garment, avatar, scene. If you want to import as DFS, I think DFS is the import patterns, like when you save patterns on DFS from Adobe Illustrator, you can import them into the software. PLT, I don't know, OBJ, FBX. If you are familiar with Blender and all of those other softwares, you should know OBJ, FBX, GLTF, and GLB, and then Alebink. And then you can export as the same way you import. You can also export, and then user settings, where you can get like change your default your user interface. You want to change it to centimeter or inches. You want to change the language, so I changed from dark to light. Yeah, and then you have other advanced settings here. So this is the 2D pattern window and then the 3D pattern window. Also, when you open the software, you should have an hands-on practice file, the 2 minutes video where you can create your own project. So you can all come and watch this. If you've not watched this, come here and then you see hands-on practice. So first thing first, I'm going to be adding an avatar to our scene. So this is the 2D pattern window where you draft your patterns, and whatever you draft here is going to appear here. So I'm going to click on this resource library to get an avatar. You click on avatar. When you click on avatar, you should see boy, child, female, hanger, heart shape, etc, etc. When you click on boy, you should get different appearances, gestures, hair, poses, shoes, sizes, and it's the same thing for every other except from hanger and heart shape and shoe shape. So I'm going to be using a female model. I'm going to click on female, and you should see something like this or this. I think you should have just one female. So because I've been using software for a while, I have some other softwares that some other models that I've created myself. So you open, double click, and then you can open the when you double click, and that message should pop up. The model is supposed to pop up, so you should have something like this. So you have shoes here as well, so you can come here and download whatever shoes motions. Like this is motions for animation. You have different hairstyles here. You can download. Some of them are not already downloaded, so you just have to click on download, have face and different things. So when I'm going to leave the resource library, and then when I click on this model, it will show yellow, and then you can see the properties of the model. You should see pose, so you can change the pose from here as well. There are different poses. You can change to this. You can change it to basically any pose that you want. I'm going to go back to, I think default pose is this pose actually. And then you can change the gesture of the hand. So this is for the left and this is for the right. So if you want to change her, if you want her to be, want her to be clothed, the underwear to be demi-cup, or you want just nipple covers, or you want her to be naked, you can pick whichever one you want. And if you want to change the shoes as well, you should have different shoes, so you can change the shoes from here. Just double click and then shoes are going to change. And then you can add different accessories, their hairs, their earrings, different things, and can also change the hair as well. I like to use no hair, so she's like this. And then when you click on her, you should see a name. When you click on the name, you can change to whichever model that I use. Ada is the only black model that is available. We have Alexa, and now we have different, depending on the one that you want. You can use when any one that you want. Now when you click on edit avatar under the property editor, you should be able to adjust the measurements, the face, the emotions of your avatar. So let's say for an example, you have a specific size that you want to use for your avatar. You can just input that specific size. Have them the bust, lower chest, different measurements, so you can just, and when you for an example, you want to adjust the thighs, you will click on yellow, and then you can just increase or you decrease depending on how you want her to look like. And then when you're done, you can save the avatar size to anyone that you want to do. Okay, so now I'm just going to go to creating the model. So for this, I'm just going to be using my pencil. Like I said, the pencil works like the pencil that is on CorelDRAW or Adobe. So this is an outline of this body. So I'm just going to try and trace whatever is here. This method, we call this method the draping method. So some other creators would use the 0 to 1. If you are very familiar with Winifred Aldrich or Lenny Armstrong, the book, you should know this method I'm talking about. 0 to 1, the A to B to draft a pattern. But I'm just going to use this method because it's very easy for beginners and beginners that are not fashion savvy to be able to use this method to draft clothes. But to use this, that's why I always ask if you have the basic knowledge of pattern drafting, because you know when a cloth is not fitting well, you have to introduce the dart and all of those things. So you can go and make your research, download these books, and just read about clothing and all of those things if you are going into advanced fashion. So what I did was I used my pencil to draw straight lines, nothing serious, just straight lines. From here, this is the waist, the hip, I did a straight line as well. I didn't try to do a curved line, and something like this, another straight line. And then I'm going to go back to the beginning and double click. Ideally, I always tell people to try and make the make it a little bit bigger. Mine is a little bit smaller, so I'll need to adjust it later. So I'm going to be using the short keys, which I'm going to mention the short keys. It's always nice for you to master some of these short keys so that you don't have to go back and forth, and it's always easy to master the short key from the beginning. So short key for curve is C. So I'm just going to curve all of those lines that need curving. Lines that need curving, like the neck, the shoulder, this is wrong. Sorry, I'm going to delete this whole pattern. I'm so sorry. So I made a mistake with the way the shoulder is looking. The shoulder is not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to be slant. It was just straight. It's not supposed to be like that. I'm just going to do this again. So I'm going to click on C. It's going to bring the curve to like that. So the neck is not, so I'm just going to drop this by 1.45 cm. I'm working with cm instead of inches. You can see as I'm dropping it, the measurements that I'm dropping it by is showing on is the purple. So just drop it like this. And I use the C2. You can use the Z2, but I use the C2 so that I'm just going to curve this like this. The hip as well. Just curve it like this. And I'm going to click on Z to get me the edit pattern tool and right click and set as symmetry as this, which is going to extend the pattern with symmetric half. So it's just going to unfold the pattern basically. So after unfolding the pattern, I'm going to click on A. A is the short key for select move. It's B actually, but like I think D or so. There's no short key, but because I use glue, I just know that it's A. So I'm going to copy this pattern and paste it at the other side. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and paste it on the side. If you clicked on the introduction message, it's going to come to this place and make your garment thick, but we need it to be textured so we can see the front and the back of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Z on the second pattern that we copied and pasted and cancel axis. I'm going to use the pen tool as well and draw a straight line down here and cut this and delete this. I'm going to move this here. Coming to the 3D pattern window, I'm going to use this gizmo tool to move this here, and I'm going to right click and flip horizontally 3D like this, so it's going to come to this side. Then I'm going to click on this and right click and click on symmetric pattern with seam and move this to this side. So now I'm going to sew this pattern. So now there are 3 different pattern tools, sewing tools, and we have another one called the M and N. So there's a saying for every software that when you want to learn a software, it's ideal to know 20% of, have to master at least 20% of the tools in that software. You can see that there's a whole lot of tools, and some of these tools are doing the same thing. So it's ideal that you master 20% of these tools and know how to use them very well. Once you can master at least 20% of a tool, of the tools in a software, you don't have any problem, right? For an example, we have the M and N sewing tool. I've never used this sewing tool for this software and the other software that I use. So I'm going to be using the segment sewing tool now to sew from here to here. You can see that as I'm sewing from here to here, and this other side is sewing as well, because remember when you are making a clothes, remember that one side, whatever is happening on this side is what's happening on this side, except you are making a clothes in what asymmetric, which is like maybe a one shoulder dress, and you know that the 2 sides are not the same. One has a shoulder and the other one doesn't have a shoulder. So from here, so there are situations where some beginners would sew something and then they are twisted like this. You take the edit sewing tool and reverse it, and that is going to reverse that mistake that you've created. I'm going to click on X as in X marks spots, which is to get the end point to X as not S for segments but X for xylophone, to get us, and click on a point to create a slit, because if she was going to wear this dress, obviously without the slit she might just fall if she's going to work. So I'm going to use the segment sewing to and just sew like this. I'm going to use the move tool to move this a bit, arrange this a bit, so that by the time we press space bar to simulate it, there's not going to be any pressing space bar to simulate. Yeah. Note, if you are trying to create a pattern for the sake of producing it in real time, you want to print out your pattern, it's ideal that you leave a lot of allowances, like don't draft so that it fits the body perfectly. You must always check your measurements. So to check your measurements, click on length, and then you should see edge length. So you have to be very, very particular about your measurements, because the thing with this software, it stretches the fabric. So if I get a model that is bigger than this particular, an avatar that is bigger than this avatar a little bit, it will still fit, the dress will still fit on her. If you want to check your fittings on the avatar, you can click on body pressure and garment stress to see where is red is a lot of stress on it. There's a difference. You can check with this to see where is bad and where is good. Right now the garment is looking okay. Like, you can check all of this to see places that are quite tight. So looking at this now, we need to make a little bit of adjustments. Body pressure is tight here, it's tight at this area. There are some issues around here. You can fix that by just increasing the measurements later. So now that we are done with this, we are going to create the wrapper. We're going to be using the rectangle tool, which is the X, to create like a very big rectangle. There's no measurements, and use the pencil to draw a straight line like this. No particular measurement. I'm going to use the move tool and move this down. My internal line is not showing, so I'm going to click on where there's garment so that my internal line can show. And I'm going to use the fold arrangement tool to just dip like this. No particular, and move this here as well. Then we have this tool called the tack tool. It works like needle, like just a tack, just to tack a dress. You just tack it and then press space bar to simulate, and you get your wrapper. Mine is stuck. I'm trying to remove this thing. Yeah. So now where there is a tag, so I'm going to use the pencil to like just, this is like a guideline. Just going to use this to draw another line, no particular measurement. Draw a straight line here, so that I can tie the wrapper to the waist. Now I'm going to be using the free segment sewing tool. So now the free segment sewing tool basically is a tool that you can use to sew freely. While the segment tool, you can sew from segment to segment. You can actually sew from this segment to this segment. But if you want to use a free sewing tool, you can allow you sew freely. For an example, I want to, you see that you can measure the length of your sewing that you want to use. You don't have to sew anything from segment to segment. So let's say I want to sew this from here, and I want to have it gathered a little bit here. Know that there's no segments here, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So like, I can just sew it like that. It can allow me to sew anything freely. It doesn't have to be from one segment to another segment. For an example, let's say I wanted to use the free sewing tool to sew this, and the segment sewing tool, I will have to sew from this segment to this segment, but I don't want to sew from any segment. I just want it to gather a little bit. So I'm just going to press space bar and then delete the tacking with the tack tool. So now I'm going to click on the resource library. You should get fabrics, and there are different fabrics here, and all of these fabrics, they function the way a fabric will function in real life. They have the same components and spandex. So for an example, now this is a cotton pick fabric. You can see the composition is 95% cotton and 5% spandex. We have cotton plain, which is 100% cotton. So all of these fabrics would move like the way they will move in real time, right? So if you animate this, or you animate this, or you just animate it, you see that the movements are going to change. I'm going to be using just click on any fabric, double click, and then they appear on the management window. Just any fabric in particular, it doesn't have to be anything. I don't know. I use this one. Let's see the difference in all of them. So I'm going to drag, I'm going to click on this so that I can get like a textured surface for everything. I'm going to drag and drop this here, and you can see, and I'm going to press on simulation. You can see that, I don't know if you notice, but the movements change. I'm going to stop this and drag and drop this here. This with this one, because lace is a lighter material, it's going to be a little bit stiff. While with silk crepe, is going to, the draping is going to be, it's going to fall. And let's see the difference between this. I think I should have checked the composition. The wool material is a little bit stiff. This is like the wool that you use for kaftans that would be menswear kaftan. Okay. So I'm going to, because I want to use this, so I'm going to just leave this as it and leave the default fabric. So when you go to the property editor, you can actually add, so if it depends on how you want the fabrics to be, you can change the bending, the stretchiness of the fabric, the stiffness, and all of these things. You can go and research on all of these things. So we have textures, we have normal map, we have gloss map. These are advanced settings. So when I click on rendering type, you should see matte. So we have velvet, you can see we have metal, plastic, gem, glass, just different types of textures. We call the outlook of a material or a garment, call them textures in 3D language. When you just click on velvet and change velvet and change this color to black. So now I want to use the pen to give it like a sweetheart neckline. So I'm just going to draw a straight line here and drop this and click on C and drag this a bit and click on Z to get the edit pattern tool and cut and sew. Do the same for the back. Click on pen tool, Z, and cut and sew. Let's click on simulation. I'm going to drag this and drop it here. Now if you notice, this is supposed to be a chantilly lace, but the texture is a little bit small. Is not looking like a chantilly lace. So now because the size of the texture is too small, so when I click on assets and I go to edit texture tool, I drag this a little bit from this place. Sorry, escape key to escape the tool. I drag this from this yellow part. You can see that the textures are getting bigger. Right. So you can also change the color of the lace. Right now it's just on white. You can change it to any color that you want. Change it to green. You can change it to cream. Any color basically. And then click on simulation. trying to get rid of it here, and this issue can be because of sizing or just particle distance. If I click on stop the simulation and I go back to home and select smooth, and I click on this for everything here, I just reduce the part, scroll down to particle distance, scroll down to under the property editor is this particle distance, and click on 10. I might not see the 10 by the time I simulate it here, should not be there here. Well, most times it might be a size problem, but that was a particle distance problem. Now, while it is still simulating, I'm going to click on the model and I want to change her pose. So it has to be on simulation while you change the pose, and I'm going to be using this pose. Pose 3. No, this pose there. Start this time. You can see her hands are moving. Yeah, basically. And then when I come back, I stop simulation. I want to add like accessories. Just scroll down. You can add earrings. You can click on glasses, whichever earrings you want. Let's hope. Okay. I have no idea why that's not working. Maybe I didn't download it, or it's just a network problem. So when we click on the resource library, you should see scene. You can get different types of scene. I'm going to be using scene 4. Open it, and when I click on assets, comes to render and sync this. So the pixel on this is quite big, so I'm just going to change this to maybe 2. Okay, 1080. Or you can go and check for your Instagram reel or Instagram post size 1080 90. This is Instagram reel size, but this is the previous measurements was in 4K, so it might take a long time to load, and for the purpose of this tutorial I don't want us to waste time. So you can change the image size from the property editor. Right, and then it's going to be, here it's going to be saving here. So when it is done, you can click on, it's going to, by the time you press play, it's rendering, it's going to save the image for you, or you can just click on save. I click on top of the image, and then you can input the name of the image. Let's say image 1, and I have this already. Right, so that is everything you need to know about this software. I'm going to stop this. We have animations as well, where you can add your animations and then just do the whole catwalking thing, and then you save your animations. All of these are other things that the software can do for you. But yeah, those are the basic things that you need to know to create your own garments from scratch, and you can try and create another style using this particular method I've used. You just be creative with it. So thank you for watching. Bye.